Hi, welcome to the episode 35 of Take It EV. In today's episode, I've got an interview with Warren. Warren is a major contributor to EVA England, and we're just going to talk about the inception of EVA England, the whole story, what it is, how you can get involved, and what it does, and also about his house, which he kind of converted, into being as energy efficient and sustainable as possible, which is very inspiring. And Warren himself is a very inspiring person. If you ever, come across him at any event, just go and chat to him. He's an amazing guy. And I had a privilege of sitting down with him at the beginning of March and recording an episode. So enjoy that. But first, I need to run through a couple of messages. So first of all, sorry about the absence in the last month and a bit, but March is a bit of a tragic month for me, and I just had to take some time off. Secondly, I've recorded quite a few things at the beginning of March, but they, I couldn't get them released just yet. They'll come soon. The next couple of episodes are going to be video form and audio as well. So do subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's just called Take It EV or Take It EV Podcast. At the moment, it has a very small following because the videos are just, audio podcasts with the overlay graphics. So that's obviously not very entertaining. But I've got a couple of interviews there already in video form. So, go and check that out. Secondly, I really, really need you. If you've been listening to this podcast, just go to the Patreon and just chuck in £2 a month. It's really necessary. I had to spend quite a bit of money on a couple of things just to get things going for this podcast. And, as much as I love talking to people, and I'll probably continue to do so, I really need to see and feel people's support behind this podcast, please. It's really important to me. I mean, it's free. It always will be free, for as long as I keep on paying my hosting fees. But I just need to feel the support. It's really important. This is just a hobby for me. I'm not going to make any money on this, but I just need you to show us your support, and also go and share this podcast with your friends. Give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. I just need people to go and support me, support this podcast, and make it bigger than it is. Please, I've been going since 2019, and I really need this. Anyway, on with the show. Let's talk about EVA.
We'll start with that. It's EVA England.
EVA England.
It's important that it's EVA England.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is EVA England especially. And we can go into why if you want as well.
I'm happy to. Are all the EVAs sort of in the UK connected, or are they kind of separate entities?
So, we all work together. But the thing is, though, so EVA has 3 letters. EVA is a name, but it's also, there is various schemes that are appropriated those letters already, and they're using them for other things. So when we talk, we are very specifically saying EVA England because we are the Electric Vehicle Association for England.
Yeah.
In the same way, we've got EVA Scotland, we've got an EVA Northern Ireland as well. There is talk of a Welsh group, but this is not something simple to do, and so I think it's a struggle to find people who are that committed to do it. It takes a lot of commitment to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Just get it off the ground is really hard work. And there's lots of lovely people who would really like to do this in, say, Wales, but they haven't been able to find that level of commitment. You need a bunch of people who are committed, because unless you're retired and have all the time in the world, or a bunch of you are retired and have all the time in the world, you cannot put this thing together properly. And that's the issue at the moment. We're just finding people in Wales to take it on at the level it needs to be done.
Okay. So let's talk about EVA England then.
So EVA England. So what do you want to know? I can start with how we got together. So basically, it's kind of this EVA England kind of grew from a lot of different things. It wasn't just a single individual or thing. There was a few people who were kind of all in the same sort of space, and we all kind of collaborated to put this together. On the actual lobbying side, Alan Cooklin met Bridget Phelps, and they're actually our chair. Bridget's our chair, and Alan's our vice chair. They met at a charger. They were talking about the state of the charging infrastructure.
Classic.
And they were like typical EV drivers, right?
Yes.
At a charger, having a conversation, as we all do. All of us who kind of been in this for. I mean, I've been here 6 years. I'm driving EVs now. We all want to help our fellow people because we struggled. We've all had the struggle, and all of us who've been doing this for a while tend to try and chat to people. That's because we do. So they met at a charging station. They were chatting about various bits and pieces. They both have backgrounds in charities and lobbying and all those kind of things. And so they were like, well, where is the association? Where's the drivers' association for this? And there just isn't one in England. There's a Scottish EVA, and they are amazing. They've been running for, I think it's coming up 11 years this year. And they have done amazing things in Scotland. If you look at the charging infrastructure out there and the free charging, all the bits and pieces they've had for so long, they've done a great job. And they've worked themselves into a position in Scotland where they are trusted, and they have a lot of members, and they're fighting the good fight. They're really good guys. But there was nothing in the rest of the country, basically. So Alan then took it upon himself to try and find other people. And my dog's just come and say hello, by the way. So if you hear sniffing on the microphone, that's what it is. I'm not just breathing heavily here. So basically, Alan started looking around for other people who are in this space and spoke to the usual suspects you would do. You speak to the guys in Scotland, but you also would speak to Fully Charged, the Renewable Energy Association (REA), and some other bits and pieces.
Yep, there's a dog.
That's my dog. And he met a guy called Dan Brown, who was at the REA, and a few other people. And then alongside that, well, you know me from Sussex EVs.
Yes.
So Neil set up Sussex EVs, and I got involved in that quite early on. And then, and before I was doing that, I was doing other bits and pieces with Transition Town, and I was already doing a lot of EV. I was like an EV evangelist, people used to call me, because I used to do various shows and talk to the press and journalists and do bits and pieces, and had stuff on the web. I've got things on the Tesla website. I've got BBC. I did a whole bunch of stuff in that thing, so I was kind of already known for that. I met Neil at a TV meet, and we became friends, and I've been helping with that since then. And so I was kind of known in the EV stuff for that, and then this guy Rolly was looking to do an EV association for England, and so he contacted a bunch of people in the various groups around the country, or locally anyway. He at the time he was living just across the border in Surrey, so he came to a couple of meetings. He'd met a few of us, and he kind of talked to us, and he'd been emailing back and forth, and it was really interesting what his idea was. But the Nexus group is very much a community, and we're all in the group, especially. It's everyone is trying to do life and do this as a thing. There isn't that time that people need to put something like this together. But in the end, I think it was Neil, myself, and Gary, UK EV.
Yes, yeah.
Gary, you know Gary.
Yeah, I know
Gary Cambridge. Yeah. Who were all invited to the first sort of online meetings of these people. And when we got there, in the room was obviously Bridget and Alan, but also Dan from REA, and then Jill Noel, who you've had on the podcast before, I think.
I had, yes, yeah.
Yeah. And Jill came in via, I think Fully Charged, and some other people mentioned her as well. So I think Fully Charged mentioned them, Fully Charged mentioned the EV groups as well. So that's how we kind of got together. And we all did end up on a Zoom call talking about this and seeing what we could do and how we were interested and what it would involve and so on. And then Gary has a million things going on. You know what he's like. He's a man with many things happening.
Yes.
And he was trying to change the Facebook group to be more than that, do the website and do the bits and pieces. So he already had plans what he wanted to do with his stuff. And Neil is, again, just a busy person. And the Nexus stuff takes a lot of time. And it takes a lot of time because it is everyone's in the community. It's not a company. It is, you know, it's like herding cats. I mean, it's like trying to organise a party. Or, you know, it's like, oh my god, someone just answer an email. You know, it's just because we're all. It's life. It's you know, this isn't. We're not getting paid for this. All of us doing it in our own time, and so the Nexus is a different feel. It's very much a community. I feel like the Nexus is much more of a hippie sort of thing. Everyone's kind of putting together for the right cause, and EVA England needed to be much more of a structured company. It needs to be a you almost like you gotta if you're trying to change the world and fight like against the fossil fuel lobbies, you've got to be organised in the same way they are.
Yeah,
and that's what we're trying to do. We wanted to do. We wanted to be like strong and coherent and together and organised, and you need to be, otherwise you don't get in, you don't get a foot in the door, you don't get into that room when these conversations are happening. And so that's what we did. So we set up as a CIC. We were going to try and do it as a charity, but it takes a lot of work, and we were all geared up for it. But then the 2030 consultation came out, and the change from 2050 to 2030 to try and move that needle came. And we thought we need to be working now. We can't be trying to work on becoming a charity. We need to be working on saying that as EV drivers, we want it to be 2030 and not 2040 and not 2050. And we want it to be, and we support this. We want this. Yeah. And so we set up really quickly. We set up as a CIC with the 6 of us. And we did our survey. We surveyed the EV drivers, and we put our stuff together and we submitted it, and we got our views into that consultation. And that wasn't a simple, I say that as a really simple set of steps. It's not. It was quite a complicated thing to do, quite a difficult thing for us to put together coherently and in a way that people paid attention, because you've got to remember that we're fighting against the likes of Fair Fuel and those guys who've got a lot of money. And it literally was, you know, one of us paid for. I think I paid for the hosting. No, I didn't. I paid for hosting. Jill paid for the domains. Like, you know, we did this all of our own money. We didn't. No one paid for this. We did that whole first piece on our own. We did all that bit on our own. We all chipped in a few £100 here and there, and whatever it took to get it up and running. Yeah. We all used our own kit, and we got going. And then Bridget and Alan are amazing, and they know all the stuff and all how this works, and they've set up the charities and things before, so they then looked into getting us grants. So we got a startup seed grant that gave us a bunch of money to give us, you know, a member of staff just to do the collation of the information, run things in the background, to set up our back end system so that everyone who registers us as a member their stuff is protected, that information is looked after. We don't just whack it onto a spreadsheet and tuck it on a, you know, Google Drive somewhere. It's, you know, it's in a proper it's properly looked after in a CRM. We take all that stuff very seriously. So yeah, we did all that, and we kind of ran. But what happened really is it should really be a 2-pronged attack for this stuff, with the one half being lobbying, which is the thing that is the most important thing, and then the other half being members. But we just haven't, because of the way it's kind of gone, and because we've been so successful on the lobbying side and getting into that room, we've put a lot of our time, and most of our time, into talking to MPs, talking to members of, talking to the Lords, talking to Department for Transport, talking to the various organisations and stuff who are doing this. That's become most of what we do. Okay. And on the flip side, we haven't been able to chase those membership benefits and chase getting new members, and that's all changing now. We're changing all that now, so there'll be announcements coming into Fully Charged, what we're doing, and things, new benefits for members, and how we're changing things and pulling more members in, because we need more members to make this carry on.
Okay, so the 2022 is going to be a year of big things for EVA England.
Oh, yeah, it is. So we spent the last year doing all this lobbying stuff, and then we got some. We need to keep the lights on this, and so we went to get some more grants. We did some. We applied for some more grants, and we've just got a grant that came. It should have come at the end of last year, but actually we were all working really hard on COP. We were at COP doing stuff at COP for Transport Day and pushing things and trying to get things done and working with various people at COP. And so again, that just took a long time. But the grant, we have now got a grant which gives us enough money to run staff for 18 months. So we have an 18-month slot now, and that money will start coming in from April, where we are going to hire people, and we're just hiring for our new CEO. So we're just on the interview stage of that, and we'll be announcing that soon, and there'll be a whole bunch of stuff coming with that. But that then gives a bit. We need to be sustainable. So that person coming in is going to build us into being a sustainable entity, where whether it's with grants we get from various people, whether it's work we do on things like surveys and responses to things, where it's being involved in various things that have come out, or we can claim money from the government. We'd like the money to a lot of money to come from our members, because that gives us complete independence, and we're not beholden to anyone. But the plan is that person coming in will set up a small team around themselves, and they will build a sustainable EVA England, which will then continue this work. Because as much as the six of us have really pushed to do this stuff, two of the team are retired, so they have a bit more time. And when I say that, I mean they have a bit more time, but they have other things going on. They're doing other bits and pieces as well. They're very active in other charities and other events and things, and the rest of us all work. So we give our time to this thing. So for me, I've dropped a day at work, so I've taken a 20% pay cut, which gives me one whole day that I can spend doing family stuff and doing EVA stuff, EVA England stuff. And that's what I give to this. But that isn't sustainable long term. I've probably got maybe another year of that, realistically, before I have to think about maybe going back to work full time, or maybe how I juggle my time a bit more. It all depends on family more than anything else. Family is always first for me. But I will give whatever time I can to this, and I will build this and do whatever I can. But once we're at that sustainable point, I just need to see this grow and flourish. And I just can be there in the background, kind of helping steer it. The only way you get any real change is if it's done properly, and it needs to be a sustainable, real thing, like with a real company, with real people it's their jobs to do this work.
Yeah. You want people to be able to focus continuously. Yeah. Is it fair to say that you guys are looking for volunteers still, or?
We're always looking for volunteers. So let's talk about money as an association. We'll touch on that, because as I've just said, we need to be paying people and do this properly as a full-time thing. That's great, but if we need to maintain our independence, so I can't just take money. As much as, we have various people coming to us and saying, "Can we give you money because we really respect what you're doing, and that's all great, and we'd like to give you this and we'd like to give that." We have to be very careful about where that money comes from, because as you can see in the current political climate, if that money's coming from the wrong place, then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. And our reputation is everything. The fact that we are independent, we're fighting a good fight. It's about the mission, as Dan Caesar would say. That is really important, because if, say, a fossil fuel company is out there and they're trying to greenwash stuff, it'd be really easy for them to give us, here's a few £1,000s, put our logo on your website, look, we're the good guys, really. But that then kills our reputation, because then we're the ones taking that money. So that's where volunteers really come in handy. People, we have so much stuff we could do, and we need to do, that we just don't have the time for. And even when we get staff on board doing bits and pieces, there is a certain amount of volunteering that really helps, because these are real people who are in the situation. You know, these are the people whose voice we're trying to amplify, and so that really helps. So if you're thinking about it and you have time, volunteering is an amazing thing. And I was talking to people about this today, this weekend. So I'm an IT guy. That's where I come from. So I got into this by accident. I kind of fell into this through other things I did and through just talking to other people, and they were like, well, you should be doing this, you should be helping people. And I do a lot of this sort of talking stuff. I like talking to people and explaining all this stuff. But the other thing I'm good at is IT. So when we set this up, I was able to go, yeah, I can the domains, I can do this, I can set up Office 365, I can do all of that kind of stuff because I can do that. So when you look at this stuff, it's not just about, oh, I'm a volunteer, I want to help volunteer. It's not just about, oh, I'm giving you a bit of my time, I'm going to give out leaflets to do whatever. Sometimes it's like, well, I'm a project manager. I can give 3 hours of my week to helping with project management.
Yeah,
so because that's my skill.
Yeah, you're basically looking for somebody who's already very good at what they're doing, and they can just jump in and do it.
Yeah, and that could be anything. That could be literally anything. I'm very good at talking to people on a stand. So, you know, we are looking for volunteers to come and help us at Fully Charged and just talk to people. And, you know, when they're talking about electric vehicles or when they're talking about their problems, someone could listen to them, maybe make a few notes and hand them back to us, and we can contact those people later on and try and help them. Or someone who's just generally good on social media and fancies helping us with our social media a little bit. Or someone who's good at copy, someone who can write stuff, someone who's got can turn a phrase quite nicely and fancies writing a few blog posts for us. I mean, there's like loads of things they could do for us. People could do for us if they want to. Literally, we can use any help we can get. And whether that is amplifying our voice on Twitter or Facebook or just being an ally and a friend. You know, sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes it's just nice to have a bunch of volunteers where you can just call people and say, we're trying to do this thing, but it doesn't quite sit right. What do you think? Yeah. And getting that opinion back might give us an idea to do something a bit differently, or they might know someone who can help with things. So yeah, volunteering in general, if you can do. I've been volunteering for most of my life since I was at school. My school, my parents are Catholic. I was brought up as a Catholic, and my school was I went to a Catholic school, and it was a lot of things we did. And part of the things we did when we were in the older years was we were given options as to what we wanted to do. And one of the things you could do is you could take one of your periods and you could use it for voluntary time. So I did, and at the time I thought it was. At the time, it was a good excuse to get out of school. It was like, I can get out of school for 3 hours. It's awesome. But actually, you know, we went to hospitals and read to people and talked to people, and it made such a difference in their lives. And it was nothing. It was literally, it was like, God, this is such a simple thing. I am literally playing chess with this man who is a bit lonely. Or I'm literally just having a chat with this woman about music or whatever. And it was such a simple thing, but it made such a difference. It kind of like, well, God, we can do these things. These small things make a big difference. Why don't we do them? So,
yeah, volunteering is amazing. Whenever I've done it, it fulfills you a little bit and opens you up to other things in life.
Definitely.
But you know, because you mentioned sort of IT and sort of office skills, or type of skills, but I'm sure you're looking for other people on the ground, probably even people such as lawyers or, you know, whatever, anybody. Who can, like, a professional or somebody who's skilled and, you know, spend some time doing something.
It doesn't even need to be professional. Like, if you're a mum and can handle, you know, 4 unruly children, come along to one of our events, because sometimes it's like that, you know. And I'm serious. It's just if you have time, if you believe in not necessarily our cause but a cause, you believe in whatever cause it is, and you can give some of your time. Give some of your time. As much as giving money and giving things is what is needed a lot of the time. Time is the most valuable resource to people. It's the thing. It takes a little bit of organising, and we're working very hard on that because we haven't got many volunteers, but organising them so that their time is useful. But yeah, just that time. You know, maybe you're good at poetry, you know, and you're good at jokes, good at puns. Brilliant. You know, you can write some puns for our Twitter account. I mean, literally anything. Find your talent. Tell us what you can do, and we can find a way of putting that to use. You know, so yeah, it's just about. I think it's about that belief and that passion. If you believe in the cause and you want to help.
Yeah, and it's a different organization when it's actually led by, when there's loads of volunteers inside. Like, it's a bit more relaxed and kind of, you know, it just kind of flows in a different way compared to like a commercial organization. So,
well, we're trying to be a voice for EV drivers, and so, you know, it's important that EV drivers are represented and we talk to them and they understand that. So even if your skill is you can talk to EV drivers, you can email back and forth to people and get opinions for us, or if someone's got a problem, you can spend a bit of time helping them get their problem resolved. And whether that is, you know, like, I'll give you some examples of things that we've done for members and not even non-members. You know, we help people where we can. You know, we've spoken to, or personally, I've spoken to Chargepoint operators where people have problems with CPOs. You know, I've kind of did, look, can you look at this? I've spoken to energy companies and said, we've got someone here who's got a problem. Can you help? You know, just because they're getting frustrated or because they're getting stuck somewhere. I've spoken to motorway service stations where someone's got a parking ticket because the charger, when they arrived, they were there was 2 cars queuing and they couldn't get any further in their leaf, so they had to wait. And so when those cars are done and it took an hour for each car, they plugged in, they charged for an hour and they left. They'd been there for more than 2 hours. They got a parking ticket. You know, that's a phone call, that's an email to someone and say, look, this is what happened and this person's really struggling with this, can we help? And, you know, a lot of the time it's like, we'll sort something out, we can do something. That's the kind of things we can do, just being able to listen to someone and steer them in the right direction or point them in the right direction. And sometimes you get these things where someone comes to you and they say, and they're like really frustrated, they're really angry. And you have to kind of just say, I appreciate where you're coming from, but this is it from the other side, and this is what the problem is. And as much as you think this is the solution, it's a bigger picture we need to look at here. Yeah. So sometimes the person at the other end of that email or on the phone isn't actually in the right, and you've got to kind of say, well, actually, in this case, the CPO, the Chargepoint operator, is doing this, and that's why it's like this. You know, that's why the charger hasn't got a shelter. That's why the charger is like this. Not to say that we don't need a shelter. I'm saying that's what happened. And I'm not to say that, why did they put the chargers over there? Well, because that would cost X £1,000 more, because they'd have to dig up the entire car park to run cables over there. Whereas it's really simple and really quick to put a cable in here and put it here. And that's why it's in an awkward space, or that's why they can't do this, or that's why everyone keeps parking in that spot, because it's a really convenient spot.
Quite often, like I had other people on the podcast before who are Chargepoint operators, or they manufacture charging points, and they would tell me that the operator has no choice. They're told, this is your spot and you have to put it there, and that's it. Like, there's no,
there's no negotiation. There's no actually, that's a really bad spot, can we stick it over here? It's like, no, the power comes in there and this is over here and this is our plan and it's already been approved and that's where you're going to have it. And and you can't have this and you can't have that. I know you want it a bit like this, but no, we can't do that. And so it literally, a lot of these things are fixed. These guys can't make a change, and as much as we need that change to be made, we're working on that stuff. We're lobbying the government to give clarity on it. The Chargepoint consultation will finally be coming out soon. I can't say when, for 2 reasons. One, because I'm not supposed to say when it's coming out, even though I've been given a date. But also because with the situation in politics, because it's because of the way politics works, as much as you might want to give your announcement about what you want to do as what the government's going to do about this, if the political situation changes and the Prime Minister does something stupid, they will hold it for a week or a month until that story dies down. Otherwise it gets swamped and lost in the static. At the moment, it's been like that for months. We've just had months of, it's a really bad time to release this, we're not going to release it now. It's a really bad, this has happened, we can't release it now because we'll lose the impact. So yes, there is stuff coming about Chargepoint consultations. We've worked really hard on that with OZEV and the DFT to get our voices heard and with what's going on, and that is coming out soon as part of a whole big wider thing now as well, because it's been delayed for so long. The other big one coming is accessibility, which is another one of my passions, is to make things accessible for people. So my father-in-law was in a wheelchair for many years, and so that kind of gave me a real insight into living with someone and trying to do stuff with someone who's in a wheelchair. And not to say that I have insight to it. I don't know. I'm not in a wheelchair, but it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff and how we need to do better for people. And it's not just people. Like, wheelchair is an easy one to say, but everyone benefits. Absolutely everyone benefits from this stuff. Like if I have long COVID, so I struggle with a few things physically. My hearing is going. A lot of us wear glasses. These are all things. But if you are a parent with a child or a couple of kids, having a bit of space makes it easier. Having accessible stuff just makes it easier for you. Having chargers that are well thought out makes your life easier, even if you're completely able-bodied, because you might have one kid in your arm because you have to carry one of them, or you might be just trying to have that, just trying to live and do stuff is complicated enough. Just coming back to your charger with your hands full of shopping is complicated enough, you know. So accessibility helps everybody.
Yeah, and like I said on the previous episodes, 20% or 25% of the population at some point will end up with some disability, one or another, or at the moment has some sort of a disability. And I'm able-bodied and all that, but I hate coming up to a charger and then just being able to barely open the door because you're so much squeezed in. It's impossible for most people to do that. To just navigate it or just bump into your car. It would be nice to have just a lot of space around you, just to be able to plug it in, or never mind having children shopping, whatever. But just for the luxury of having some space, and I think because at the moment we don't have choice when it comes to where the charging point is going to go when it gets installed. But at some point, having a charging point in your car park is going to be a necessity for most of the people who have car parks around their properties. And more thought is going to be given into it, and I hope this is going to be happening soon, because there's so much going on in the field of not just accessibility but like safety around chargers, and simple things like just having a canopy when it's snowing or raining.
Yeah, and that's just another complication from planning laws. Yeah, it's not a simple thing. I know people say, "Oh, I can't put a canopy up," but it's not as simple as that. If it was, people would do it. Yeah, it's a massive amount of hoops to jump through, and it becomes a whole thing. And then there's a whole maintenance thing and a safety thing with what if it's high winds? You have to make sure it can cover the winds, and if it falls over or someone crashes into it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with it. It's not as simple as people think it is. Yeah. Put it this way, it extends the lifespan of the electronics in the charger. So if they could put it, they would have done it by default because it just saves them money. Yeah, exactly. Like the cost actually isn't so much in the canopy. The cost is actually in the things around it, the hoops you have to jump through, and the delay it will take. It could delay your charger install by 6 months, a year, putting a canopy on it. Yeah. And so it's almost like, would you like a charger this year without a canopy, or would you like a charger in 6 to 18 months with a canopy? And if you're not going to put a charger in now, then that company over there will put the charger in now without a canopy because they want to get into that spot.
It's a fairly fierce competition. There's some of the Chargepoint operators have, hundreds of pounds of incentives if you give them a detail of a person who would like to have a charger installed on their property. It's that fierce. It's interesting. Are there any other things on the sort of current affairs sort of list of things that are worth mentioning from that you can talk about?
You see, it's hard because there's so many things going around and there's so many things going on. I can't remember which ones are public anymore. The Motability one, which is the one that is the accessibility one, we're working with Motability on it. That is literally imminent. It'll be out. The consultation phase, will be out soon. And then there's a very short period where we will have to basically do a survey, get people's responses to this thing, and then collate that and then get it back into the government before a deadline. And it's quite a small window we have there to do that. So that piece is going to be huge for us, and it's like a lot of work. And so we're gearing up for that as well. Again, it's all the stuff we do in the background to prep us for it because we've got to get it right. Again, what can I say? I'm trying to think, how can I put this without getting anyone in any trouble? That document has been written as a sort of stage 1 consultation. The consultation piece is out, and we know people who have seen it, who are on that, sort of in that, doing that thing. And so we have an insight to some of the stuff, but obviously they cannot tell us what's on that, what's going to happen, and what questions are going to be asked. So we've got to try and cover all the bases. But what we will do is once that's public, we will analyze the whole thing. And I believe it's not a short document. It's like I think it's like 20, 30 pages of documentation to go through. And we will try and pick out the things that we think really need to be addressed or really need to be people need to speak up about. And again, it's not just about being disabled. This is about accessibility. So whether you are able-bodied or not able-bodied or whatever your levels. The other thing I only found out recently was that when they say able-bodied versus disabled, that those stats only count to about age 60. I think it might be 60 or 65. I think at that point, that's not what the number they're looking at is. Because over 65 or over that age thing, everyone gets old and gets a bit weaker and a bit frailer. We're getting old, and so you all kind of tip into that scale. So that's a large percent of the population who are over that age.
Yeah.
So it's really important that even if right now you think that this isn't something you need to care about, it will be, because you will either get to that age or someone you care about will get to that age and it'll be an issue. So collating that information and getting that information back, and obviously we're going to analyse it first and try and give a bit of steer where we think the things are we really need to push on and do. And then we can then take those results, put them all together in something coherent and pass that back and try and make the changes we need to get to that done. That is a big one that's coming up. That's the biggest one that's coming up in the next few weeks. On top of that, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming up for charging infrastructure. You've met Kate Tyrrell. She's going to
be on one of the next episodes. So.
Oh, she's amazing. She's doing amazing work. So I like doing a lot of this stuff in the background as much as I'm on this talking to you right now. My favourite bit is if I can talk to people in the background and I can say, you need to talk to this person over here, and put people together and they go and do something amazing, and no one ever needs to know that I was involved in that. So I'm trying desperately to get Kate linked in with some really cool people so that she can do amazing things, and she is doing amazing things.
Take It EV Podcast. We talk about EVs from the heart.
We are the podcast about the EVs, where we don't just self-charge, but we also plug in.
Speaking of, let's leave the EVA aside, but your house is pretty cool. It doesn't look, it looks normal from the outside, just solar panels on the outside, but you can probably speak about things that you've implemented in your own house as a sort of sustainability measures.
Oh, okay. So, my house, which my daughter has literally just got back, she's just behind you over there, she's waving. So she is the reason for all of this stuff, actually. So when she was born, my wife had difficult birth. We ended up having an emergency C-section, and I was literally left holding the baby in like the sort of side room, and while they put my wife back together again. And I was there for like 40 minutes just holding on to this child going, oh my God, and there was a lot of time for reflection in there with what am I doing and what have I done and my responsibilities and those kind of things. It kind of, people that having a kid change your life. It really does, especially if you're just left holding the baby with no one else, and it just it was a bit of a shock, and all the things run through your head, like if my wife dies, what do I do, how do I cope with this stuff? So that was the start of my journey, and at that point I'm a huge petrolhead. I'm massively into my cars. If you look at my Facebook, and I haven't changed it because I think it's not right to pretend you were someone, that was the changing point. That was my road to Damascus, as we, as people say. But yeah, like if you look at my Facebook, you will see pictures of me, and here's Warren in a Ferrari driving a Ferrari, and here's Warren in a Hummer driving a Hummer around Texas. And I flew everywhere. I flew a lot, and all that stuff kind of changed for me with her birth, and so. When she was born, we were renting. We were renting here in Shoreham, and we'd always wanted to buy a house. It was kind of on our thing. And so when we went to buy the house, and my wife is the most organised person in the world. She's amazing, but she's very good at taking that emotion out of decisions, because it's very easy to be emotional about a lot of these things we do. And so she put together this sort of spreadsheet document about us and what a house meant to us and what we wanted to do and the things we really wanted. And there was, and we just put it all on this list on a spreadsheet, and we kind of scored things. And so I really wanted a big dining room, so that when we had our friends over and when they had kids and we all had our families over, we could all sit together and have a big meal and be in the same room. And so we have a big dining room. You see our dining room, we have a massive dining room. It's ridiculous, but that's what I wanted. That's what I really wanted. That was, for me, growing up as a kid, my best memories were going around to someone's house, and we would put all the things together so that we could all sit together on a table. And that would be, the adults would have the real table, and the kids would be sitting on the table tennis table with a tablecloth over it, and we might have like a picnic table at the end to kind of squeeze everyone in, but we'd all be sitting around together doing these things. And I really wanted that. So that was one thing I was my highest on my list. I really wanted that. I wanted off-street parking, because I wanted to have an electric car, and I wanted the ability to have solar panels, because I really wanted to reduce our carbon footprint. And then anyway, there was all these things we had on the list. Office space, we could have our own office in the house, and blah blah, and this and that, and so on and so forth. And then we looked at houses, and it was a nightmare. And we only found this place because the picture was the pictures and the map of the house, the floor plan didn't make sense, and it really annoyed me. And there's something like in my brain that kind of won't let that kind of stuff go. I have to know why that doesn't look right. And so it just drove me nuts and I think I handed the guy who was the estate agent and said, look, I really want to see this house. I want to know what's going on. I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense. And he's like, it's always sold. And I was like, I'm really interested. Keep me on that list. I'd ring him up every couple of weeks. It's still gone. Not that I thought I'd buy it, but just because I couldn't make the pictures and the floor plan work in my head, that I was losing sleep because it was just driving me nuts. I was trying to, there's a mistake here. The script doesn't make any sense. And we actually met the guy selling the house, looking at another house, and we got talking to him. and he could see that we were a young family looking for a new place and stuff. And the estate agent said, "Oh, you met the guy, blah blah." And so he said, "Look, come and look at the house. At least come have a look at it. The guy, people buying it are just taking so long. They're probably going to drop out. So if you're interested, come and see it." And we came and saw it. Oh, right, now it makes sense in my head now. They basically missed an entire room off the floor plan, and it's like it didn't make any sense. I couldn't see it. Literally, there was a room missing on the floor plan. It's like, okay, now that makes sense. Now I can see how this works and how you can actually live here. And we kind of fell in love with it. We were on a walk. There's no road outside. So we're like, Senna could run out there in safety. There's nothing to worry about the front. And then the house isn't perfect for solar, but it's good. But there's a garage out back, so I could have an electric car. And then there's space out back for storage. And, it's not ideal. There were things that we were like weren't perfect. And it was drafty, and it was, and it had gas, and, there were things that we needed to do, but we kind of fell in love with it, so we kind of fought for it. And so I think it took us over a year, but we got the place, and we got it. It cost more than we wanted to pay, really, but we really wanted it. And then we came in and we just started renovating. So one of the first things we do is get solar and then the electric car. And so again, it's about looking at that long term. And for me, it was like, this is a long term thing. We've got to do this properly. And so they were like, do a 3.6 or 4 kilowatt system. You'd be fine. Do this, do that, blah, blah. And I was like, that doesn't work for me. I'm looking at electric cars. I'm looking at this. As much as my usage is this, I'm trying to do this. And so we got 6.27 kilowatts on the roof, 22 panels. And we got that. Then we had to rewire part of the house up for it because it was the wiring here was terrible. It cost a small fortune. We changed when we got here. The guy who lived here before had been a shop fitter, for commercial. Like he was a senior, but it was like a commercial stuff. So every single light in the house was halogen. From when you go into these big 10 years ago, you'd go into a big
warehouses,
not warehouse, not even a warehouse, like a commercial, on a high street. You go into Next or go into like a shop, and they'd have these ultra bright lights.
Yeah.
Because you want everything to be super well lit because it looks nice. You go into a jeweler's, and everything, you want to pull out a ring and everything's bling. That's the kind of look they're going for. So every light in this place was, super bright and halogen. So the electricity bill was ridiculous. And we systematically changed every light in the house. Because of that, we had to go through and change them all. And then we realised, and then we had to turn the heating up because the house was so cold and drafty that we realised that the boiler couldn't cope with trying to keep the house warm anymore because the lights were keeping the house warm. It was that much power, and the heat coming off the lights. So that was a big eye opener for us to realise how much heat was coming off the lights, and that required a hell of a lot of work, but it makes a massive difference to our electricity bill. And then we just kind of lived for a while. We figured we need to live here and don't want to do much to it. Then the boiler died, so we had to put a new boiler in. And at the time, I couldn't afford air source heat pump, and I hadn't done enough research to merit doing it. So we just stuck in the best boiler we could, which wasn't cheap, but it was the most efficient boiler we could get. And then we were looking at other bits and pieces. And at that point, I kind of got involved in the Transition Town Network. I don't know if you heard of them. No. There's a group, and they're really good. They're called Transition Towns. They're all over the UK, all over the world, I think. And they are people like you and me who are on this journey trying to make things better and do things. They do lots of different things. And in the neighbouring town Worthing, they had this thing called Eco Open Homes. And so I thought, hey, that sounds really interesting. I looked it up, and they were like, they're doing all these things. And these people who have done retrofits to their houses or done this and done that are opening up their houses to let people go and have a look. So I went. I took my little Zoe and I went down there. I think Barbara and Senna were away for the weekend in Ireland. And I just went on my own and I wandered around and I talked to these people. And it was really interesting because they had done all these things and they'd done kind of this and they'd done kind of that. But I'd done more than them in a lot of cases. I was like, well, why haven't you got solar? Oh, we don't really know. And I was like, no, look at this. And I was showing them my apps with my solar generation and what's going on. And I was like, oh, why haven't you got an electric car? Oh, no, blah, blah. And I was like, so I was taking them out for rides in the car, and I was there to see their house. Not they, I was at their house talking to them about their house, but showing them my house on my phone and pictures and what I'd done, and taking them out in my car and showing them bits and pieces. And then a few people mentioned it jokingly, but when we were talking, they were like, "Why aren't we at your house? What you've got all this stuff. You can do all this. You're telling us stuff." Because I was there to see like their insulation and their bits and pieces, but I've done
which is important as well.
Yeah, but I'd already done a lot of these things they hadn't done. Yeah. And arguably, they'd done the right thing. They'd done the insulation first, and then the other stuff later on. I'd kind of come in like a bit backwards. But that's, you don't know. You kind of doing it. You do it as you think you do the best for you. And so they were like, we should be looking at your house. You should be talking about this stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'll think about it. And so the following year, they messaged me and said, look, we're doing another one this year. There's 18 months later. We're going to do another one. We're doing an eco-open home scare. We're going to do this. We'd really like you to open up your house. I'm like, I don't live in Worthing. I'm like, don't worry, we're gonna open up to Worthing. We're gonna open up to Shoreham for your house. So it was like Worthing. Oh, and here's a house like 3 miles away, but go and see this guy's house. And by that point, I'd done a few more bits and pieces, and I'd done. And by that point, we had the Powerwall in as well. So we'd bought a Powerwall. Then we were, according to Tesla, I was the third person in the UK to get a Powerwall too.
Wow.
Because again, I just pestered them. I kept on ringing them and saying, where is it? Am I waiting for it? I ordered it. Where is it? Where is our Powerwall? A combination of that and a combination of knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And also, weirdly, I think it was one of those ones where, because I'm quite active in this stuff and I was on forums and I was doing bits and pieces, they could see that I was going to be a good ambassador for it. And so they made sure that I got it really early on. So I think it was literally, some people got theirs a bit earlier. So there were a few customers who got theirs a bit earlier because they were VIPs, and then I was the number 3 on the like non-VIP list. And even then, it was because my installer couldn't do it on a Saturday, so I had my install was on a Sunday, and they'd already installed 2 other ones had been installed on the Friday and the Saturday before I got mine. So yeah, it was. I had that, and that was really interesting, and people really wanted to see it because Tesla Powerwall, it's literally a big white block on the wall. It's not exciting to look at. Like right now, you can't even see it in my garage because there's stuff all around it. You can't get to it because it's in my garage and I've got things piled up. But that was a big deal, and so loads of people came to the house and talked to us about what we'd done, and it was really interesting because there were people who came on that day were like, "Oh, hi, I met you here a year ago or 2 years ago, and we talked to you, and we bought an electric car because of what you said, or we bought solar panels because of what you said." And it was really weird. There were house owners. I met them. We had dinner together as a group that evening after the event, and they were like, "You came to our house like a year and a half ago, and because of you, we have solar panels, and we've done this, and we did that, and we have an electric car." And it was like, it was really cool. It was like, oh, it was nice to know that you helped someone,
Yeah.
So that's kind of been what we do here. So since then, just before the pandemic, we were set to another one. And again, I was going to open up my house, and I was going to run an EV event as well, because obviously it's EVs. We had it all set up to do EVs by the sea, down by the seafront. But the pandemic kicked in. But before that point, we had done the triple glazing, which just makes the house amazingly secure and sealed, and we got rid of all the drafts. The doors, oh my god, the doors! It was just like you probably heard. You've seen me open the door. It opens like an airlock. It's like as the door opens, it's just amazing. It just made such a difference to the heating and the feel of the house and the quietness of the house. Just, we have quite a major road on the other side over there. It's the slip road to a motorway, but you can't hear it in here. So we'd done that. And we've done various other bits and pieces. We've done some low water stuff, low flow water. We've got a hot composters out back to look after food waste. We have the big one actually happened last year. So this is after the event was supposed to happen. The event was then cancelled and nothing happened. But last year we did the air source heat pump. We got rid of gas in the house completely. So I have a gas fireplace over there, which is literally wired to nothing. It's a hole where the meter was. Octopus came in and took the meter out, which was awesome. We had someone knocking on the door this week and said, "Oh, we want to check your meters. We want to check your gas." I'm like, "What?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, we need to check your gas. We literally haven't got gas. I've got to check it." So the man came and checked it, and he goes, "Right, we can see it's been done. Blah blah. We will cap you on the main line now, so you won't have gas coming into that, because obviously the line still run. The main line still run.
Yeah.
They're going to cap that off, because we're never having gas back in here. We don't need it.
Yeah, there's no point having the gas to your property.
Yeah,
like,
so
it's not
safer.
safe. Yeah.
Get rid of it. Done. Bosh. Done. So that sort of thing, and then so we've done all that stuff. We've also done a lot of the home automation stuff. I like my computer stuff, so we have home automation here for things like electric blinds and lighting, which means that lights come on and off at certain times, and we can, in the summer, I can set the blinds to shade the house. We get the sun coming in very much at the front during the day, and shading it keeps the house cool. And then when it gets to like late afternoon, we can open it up again and let light back in. But it's only like, when we're at work, it doesn't make a difference. Only the dog's here, and the dog doesn't really care for like the shades are open or closed. But it just means we can open the shades up later. It keeps the house cooler. The dog's happier. We're happier. And in the winter, we can have the shades open as long as they need to be open. They automatically close at sunset. Lights will come on. All those kind of things are all run automatically. That automation stuff goes back to before we had the Powerwall. We were automating washing machine, those kind of things all get automated, and so it's a follow-on from that. We kind of expanded it to how we could use automation to offset our power. So it's things like charging your car off peak, all the things that you do normally to charge. Like, we don't do it as much anymore because we have the Powerwall, so we're a bit lazier with it. Hence, when you came in this morning, my wife was running the washing machine, but normally we can just pin that to run overnight. In fact, I tend to run a dishwasher overnight when we do dishes. Dishwasher can run overnight, off peak or cheap, depending on the time of year. In the summer, we run it during the day because obviously the solar panels are cranking out so much power.
That's what we do. We put everything on during the day because sun.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we have, with the battery, I like the battery charge. We're using a much more electricity at the moment because it's cold, and we now have gone to air source heat pump. And that is a lot more electricity. But again, once you get to April, we'll probably be pretty much self-sufficient. So before this point, with the Powerwall, from May to September, we were probably 98% efficient in the house, self-sufficient in the house from solar and Powerwall. That's going to change this year because obviously we have no gas now, because we're now heating the house on electricity. But that previous, from May to September, that was everything in the house electrical. That included our cooking, and it was running 2 electric cars, and we were completely self-sufficient between the Powerwall, between the Zappy and charging and using solar and being clever with your stuff. And that's because we went for a massive solar array. Yeah,
you've got quite a big array. And the funny thing about solar is that if you installed it, like ours has been installed in 2017. If I look at the solar panels now, for the same amount of money that I paid for the solar panels 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I can get pretty much 40%, 50% more output on my roof.
And not just cost, but efficiency.
Yeah.
So the same amount of panels will get you so much more power.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, we've got 14 panels, and I could literally have a third more, 33% more power output from the same amount of panels on the roof. They'll be cheaper, and it's just amazing how much this technology improves. What I'm trying to say is basically, if you're on the fence when it comes to solar, like, just jump on it, because A, the electricity is going up, and B, it just makes sense from sustainability point of view.
Like I keep telling people this: if you have a roof, especially if you have a good roof that's facing south, or like our roof isn't even facing south, and it's been amazing for us. Just get on with it. So, like, we have 6.27 kilowatts up there. It's 22 panels. It's 14 at the front, 8 at the back. And so we get quite a nice spread over the day. We oversized our inverter because we when I did this again, I was looking to the future. Powerwall 2 wasn't a thing. Powerwall 1 was a thing, and Powerwall 1 required in an inverter. And so we oversized our inverter so that if we put a Powerwall 1 onto it, it could handle 6 kilowatts. As it happened, we got a Powerwall 2. So that oversized inverter is well oversized for this. It's probably not the most efficient thing up there, but it's kind of where we went. That's fine. That in a year produces 6 and a bit megawatts of power. In a year, 6,000 kilowatt hours of power, and that will pretty much, apart from the cars and probably the heating now, that pretty much runs the entire house. It's more than our house usage for an entire year.
Yeah.
So do it. if you can do it, do it. And now, of course, we have a battery which allows us to store that power that we generate during the day and use it at night time. And then in the winter, we use Octopus Go because we're electric cars, so we're on a cheaper tariff, and we then charge our battery overnight using cheap, clean electricity, and then run our house during the day. So we get double bites of the cherry on the whole power battery thing. But even without a battery, solar is just a no-brainer for what it gives you. With the cost of electricity at the moment, just do it if you've got the money to put into it. We've just invested in Ripple. Have you looked at Ripple?
No.
So you know what Ripple is, right?
Explain it to people.
Okay, so Ripple is a crowdsourced community wind farm. I think it's there are various descriptions for it. This is how I see it anyway. It's like basically you buy a percentage of a wind farm, and then that percentage, that share, generates power, and then you can then get the profit from that power. So it kind of works. It's not quite as simple as saying that's the power for your house, because it's not as simple as that. The way I think it's not as simple to explain as people think it is, but the way I see it is this: they've done a deal with Octopus, and so if Ripple gives Octopus, say 1,000 kilowatts of power, 1,000 kilowatt hours of power, then because the price isn't set by what Ripple provide at, the price is set as a market price.
Yeah.
What Octopus do is Octopus say they will take that power from Ripple. They will give Ripple that money. Yeah. Sorry, they give Ripple the rather than give Ripple the entire amount of money, they give Ripple the cost of electricity as generated as a deal with Ripple, and then the rest of the money, which is what they should pay to Ripple, actually gets paid to the investors. So minus a certain percentage for overheads. So it's whatever it is, and so you then get a refund on your electricity bill, which is the profit from the generation from your wind farm. You're part of the wind farm. So it's not as simple things. There are much better videos online about this. I'm trying to be as truthful and correct as I can be, as I know. But in essence, you invest in a wind farm and you get money back for it. But for me, this house generates about 6 megawatts a year. With my electric cars, with both electric cars, and now with the air source heat pump, we've blown that out of the water. So for me, it's about people offset their power. You can buy stuff to be green and offset your power. For me, it's literally I can do that by having a share in a wind farm, and I know that personally I am responsible for generating this amount of power. It's 6 megawatts up here, and it's going to be about 7 or 8 megawatts at Ripple. Well, that more than covers all the power I use. Yeah. So I personally am covering our usage in the house. Yeah. That's how I see it in my brain. Now, I say that from an absolute place of privilege. I am very privileged to be able to do this. Most people can't, but I am, and this is this is my privilege and this is how I choose to use it. So yeah, like if you can do this stuff, it's important, because the more of us who are doing this, the more people who are putting the money into the likes of social enterprise and Ripple, these wind farms, these renewable energy things, the more mainstream it becomes, the cheaper it becomes for everyone else, and the more that people see it and invest in it and do the right thing. We need to get off our reliance of fossil fuels. We need to move away from that and move to renewables. And the more of us who do this, and it's the same reason why I do all these things in the house. I spent the money on the triple glazing, because if more people did triple glazing and did that, it would become cheaper for everyone else. The people came behind me. And for my own selfish reasons, I do that, because my selfish reason is I have a 10-year-old now. And that's my selfish reason. If anyone says, why do I do all this stuff? It's completely about my daughter. It's about being able to look her in the eye in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, in 20 years' time. And when she says, what did you do? I can say, look, I was a bad person with this stuff. I flew everywhere. I drove fast cars and I loved all this stuff. But when you were born, I changed and I did this. And this is what I did to make amends for the stupid decisions I'd made when I was younger. And that's really important. And that's my selfish piece. That's why I do this stuff. That's my motivation. Just being able to do that means I can sleep at night knowing that I'll be able to look her in the eye and say this stuff. Not that I judge my parents for their decisions, because obviously I do, because we all judge our parents for their decisions. but they I think when you become a parent, or when you kind of realise that people are doing their best. Everyone's doing their best, and so I want to absolutely show her that I am doing my best. But also, I want her to know that if she doesn't like something or sees something and thinks that isn't right or that needs changing, that she can make that change, whether it's a small change personally for her or it's a big change by rallying people around her and going and find the people who are doing this and standing up and making that difference. And that's what I need to do. That leading by example is important.
It is indeed. This is one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast, is to just talk to people and spread the message.
Yeah.
Because it inspires people when they hear somebody else. That we're social animals. We reproduce ideas. We see and we do if we like it. And having a podcast is one of my ways to contribute.
Yeah.
So even if it's a small audience, that even if it's one person sometimes emails me and says, I've done this because I've heard somebody on the podcast doing it, I'm like, happy days. I've done my work.
Exactly. That feeling you get, it's impossible to like I look at, like I've spoken about this a little ago when we talked about people coming to the house and talking about things I've done. I'm meeting people on the street or at things, and they say, I did this because I saw you do it. Just knowing that someone else did it, someone else has done this piece, and someone else, that someone's willing to just answer the phone and help you, and isn't trying to take your money, isn't interested, is doing it for good reasons, just wants to be helpful, just trying to help. That's important. But yeah, the feeling you get when someone says, oh yeah, you're the reason I did this and thank you so much, it's really helped, or you were the final push we needed to go and do this thing, and yeah, it's cool. It's just a cool feeling. And it's really funny because there are people who I really admire where I went to their house and I was like, oh my God, you're amazing doing all these things, blah, blah. And that's so cool. And then they came to me and said, oh, I've got an electric car because of you. I did this. And it's like, hang on a minute. You're just like, it blows my mind because like they're so much further ahead on all the other things they do. I got a really good friend of mine and she is amazing. I love her dearly. And she is, her entire life has been about helping kids and doing things for autistic children. And her entire life's been dedicated to that. And so she goes into schools and does these things and does these interventions for these children who are really struggling with life. And she's just the most amazing and lovely person. And every time I speak to her, I'm completely blown away by how cool she is. And she said to me like a little while ago, we put solar panels on the house and we're looking at our electric car because of something you did. And that just blows my mind because she's just like, what she does is so much more actionably worthy than anything I've ever done in my entire life. And she was I don't know if inspired is the right word, but she was motivated to make that change because I'd done it, and I do this and I do stuff. I say, yeah, it's important. Be seen, be out there, be doing this stuff. It makes a difference. And I'm really not one for being out there. I'm very good at talking to people. I love having a chat with people. I'm very good one-to-one. I love this kind of stuff where you go to we met in a field last year by an airfield, and we just chatted, and I love that. I love talking to people, and I love saying, what's your experience and what's going on with that? Have you tried this? Or that's really interesting. Can we do this? Can we do that? I love that kind of stuff to it, and that's led to all these things and doing things for journalists and doing things in on the news and in print and all those things. But one of the things I'm really looking forward to when we get a CEO for EVA England. And one of the reasons I miss Jill so much, because Jill's amazing,
yes,
is that I can then just slink back a little bit and let somebody else be out front, because I'm really happy to do it face to face and talking to people, but I'm not quite as comfortable doing the camera stuff and the podcast. This is different because I've spoken to you a few times now. I see you as a friend, so this is much of a muchness in that sense. We're having a chat in the same way we'd have a chat about other things.
And I've got a small audience of people who like this sort of stuff, so we,
yeah, no one's going to hear it. It's fine.
Exactly. We're amongst friends.
But it's weird when someone sends you a text message saying, "I just saw you on the news." It's just like with a screenshot. It's like, oh, that's really strange. So I'm really looking forward to kind of just moving back a little bit and not being on camera quite so much, and just doing. I want to help people, but I'm quite able to help them quietly in the background. And I really like I said, I really like. You should talk to this person, and putting people in touch that way. As what I was doing before you came, I was upstairs emailing and saying, I met this person. A fully charged live is coming up, and there was a vendor meetup this week. So people who are going to go, they did a presentation and they talk about what's going on and they announced the fully charged North and some other bits and pieces. And I love going to that and talking to the guys. It's one of the few times I get to go out and say hi to Dan and say hi to Robert and the team there. The team are awesome people. I got to hang out and chat to Davina this time, and she's lovely. I don't know if you know. She is. Look, I'm not going to say anything more. Actually, she is now part of the team there, so you'll see her on social media and stuff. But she's amazing. And yeah, just getting to hang out with those guys and talk to them. But there's so many people there, just who I see and talk to. So Kate was there from the Charge Safe stuff, and then Graham Cooper from National Grid was there, and then the guys from EV Cafe and girls, Sarah was there as well, saying hi to them and talking to them. But today was very much, right, who did I talk to? Right, this person should talk to this person, because there's something going on there that I know about privately, that actually they're both doing this thing, and that'd be really cool. Yeah, and then I spoke to a guy who's a YouTuber who does not there actually. I'm so busy. I was in the car driving back from that. I was talking to a guy who's a YouTuber about some of the stuff he's doing. And I was like, right, I really need you to introduce you to these people over here, because they'll be really interested in what you have to say. And actually, I need to talk to the fully charged people and see if they have maybe there's something they can do with you, because actually you'll be really good to be up on stage talking about your experience, because it's really important that people hear this stuff, and that's what I like doing. That's where my comfort zone is. So when the CEO comes and when we can do this, you won't see me as much on camera or on TV or on the radio or in print. Maybe it won't say my name as much, but hopefully you'll see me a lot more at things. And if you ever want to come and talk to me and you have questions or I can help, just get in touch.
Yeah, you're virtually at every event that I've ever been to. So, well, all right. Well, I'm not going to extend any questions. That's a good closing.
Oh, cool.
Statement. Thank you for your time.
Of course, anytime. You know where I am, and if there's anything I can do, you know where to get me.
All right.
Take care, buddy. Cheers.
Well, that's it for the episode 35. If you got up to here, Thank you very much. You're amazing. Just like I said before, Twitter, YouTube, Patreon, and, just share wide and, please kind of just let me know that you're listening and enjoying this content. It means a lot. And here are some jokes, just because you've waited so long and you've been listening to the end. Enjoy.
Why did the electric car finish the race early?
Had a short circuit. Booyah! My son kept chewing on electric cables.
So I had to ground him.
Hey!
Waka waka! Do you need a current license to drive an EV?
Current. I see what you did there.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da. Tss.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Zee-oka.